Hey everyone, thanks for joining me. So guys, this video is just going to be a little bit of a warning of things that are going to be coming and things that are on their way that are in the, that are in the pipeline. So today, in fact, I think it was today. Hang on, let me check. Yeah. So today there's an article and lots of mainstream media reporting that, well, Prime Minister to say things will get worse before they get better. So you can probably just, paraphrase that and say things will get worse. Now, on our other platform, I think last week or the week before, I did a video and I said, that dark forces are moving over us. And by dark forces, I meant exactly that. And what I said in that video, I said, you're going to start to see people speak out about the real threat to us and the real, the reality of these things that are changing, and things are just going to get a lot worse. You're already seeing, I'd say you can see cracks, but they're worse than cracks now that you can see. Now, I've got lots of friends in different countries and we all talk, we have group chats and we're on, we sometimes, the weekend we'll have a beer together, we'll do it online because the reality is we don't get much time to spend with each other, like we used to. But we all talk and it seems that every country in the world at the moment is, that Western civilization seems to be crumbling right beneath our feet. You only have to look at the United Kingdom and look at the, what's actually happening on our streets at the moment. It really is like Orwell's 1984, where we have, we have these situations now where, well, look, let's look at this, the last video I posted about this knife attack in Birmingham, I think it was. The reality is that now the mainstream media are more worried about the right-wing extremists taking hold of this and using it to push their agenda than the actual problem that we have in the United Kingdom, which is a mass epidemic of knife crime. And I'm going to go one further than that. I'm going to say it's a mass epidemic of crime. And I think today it's the Notting Hill Carnival starts as well. So here's the thing, guys. I'm going to give you a prediction. Tomorrow morning, there's going to be mass outrages all over the news, all over the media about atrocities that went on. There's going to be assaults. There's going to be women assaulted. There's going to be knife crime. There's going to be theft. There's going to be vandalism. There's going to be damage. All in the sake, all for that carnival. All for that carnival. Now, you can imagine if that was, a football lads march. If that was a football lads march, this thing would have been cancelled. It would have been outlawed. It just wouldn't, you wouldn't be able to do it again. But that's the reality, guys. And I'm making this video 2 o'clock in the afternoon on the day of the carnival. And that's what I'm saying is going to be the outcome of the carnival. How do I know this? Because that's what happens every carnival. Every time this carnival happens, the exact same thing happens. Now, who was it? I think it was, I want to say, yeah, it was Einstein. So Einstein, Albert Einstein said, if you keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result, that is the definition of insanity. And I really do feel we're at a stage of insanity at the moment. We keep doing the same things over and over again and expecting things to be different. What's going to happen in the UK? We're going to have a rise in. This is how people get radicalized. What you're seeing now is you're seeing people just putting their heads in the sand, because if they speak out about what's actually happening, if they speak out about how they feel, they're being ostracized, they're being sent to jail for lengthy terms for putting things on Facebook, So what you're going to see, and lots of the mainstream now are using the terms I used about this pan boiling. And I said this right on day one, week one. I said, right, okay, these sentences that are happening, the speed in which these people are being prosecuted, that is bolting a lid on a pan, but the pan is still simmering. And now you're getting lots of mainstream commentators. They're coming out there using the same analogy. Well, I'm going to go one further than that now, guys. I'm going to tell you what's coming next. So what you're going to see next, you're going to see the extremists on all sides of all arguments. They're going to militarize. They are, guys. All right. There is no way this doesn't happen, and they're going to militarize. And I think this is going to be an absolute catastrophe. You know, these sides of these arguments are going to militarize, and then they're going to go after these politicians, and they're going to go after the people who are making these policies. They're going to go after, and we're going to have a situation in the well, again, I can't see the future. I've not got a crystal ball. What I can see happening, and this is my speculation, you're going to have a system, like a procedure, a system, a route, a chain of events that's going to lead to things like we had in Northern Ireland, but that's going to be mainland UK now. So Northern Ireland, you had a lot of terror groups operating in Northern Ireland. You had both sides of the spectrum, and they were attacking each other. They were, and it was really, really brutal. I feel that we're heading down a path at the moment, especially in the United Kingdom, especially in the United States, places in Europe. Everybody's heading down this route at the moment. And the root cause of this the root cause of everything is our governments are not listening to the people who are voting for them. Look in the United Kingdom, since 2016, you can argue we've been trying to stop migration. 2016, we voted for Brexit to try and stop the influx of people coming into the United Kingdom. It's just made things worse. We've then voted for consecutive governments that said we're going to stop this, until we got to a stage where we had a Conservative government who were just doing absolutely nothing. It's easy to stop the boats coming into the United Kingdom. You just put the Navy on a skirmish line and say, right, you're not coming. That's it, done, over, finished. It stops overnight. So now we vote for a Labour government, and things just seem worse than ever in the United Kingdom. And I said this, right? I said this like when Keir Starmer got elected. I said Keir Starmer is a chameleon, and he will say and change his mind for whatever suits that particular day's agenda. And there's lots of videos that have put out now about Keir Starmer saying things, and then they're paradoxing that with him contradicting it like a couple of days later or whenever, because it's that old saying, if you believe in nothing, you'll fall for everything. And that's kind of what we've got at the moment. And I think Elon Musk was right, when he said civil wars inevitable in the UK, because how do we reconcile with this? How do we reconcile with what's happening, with the reality of what's happening on the streets, and the government who are unwilling to have a conversation about it? And I've said this all along, okay, none of these riots, these protests, none of these help. We need to have an honest and open conversation, and both sides need to, talk about things and be honest and stop trying to be politically correct. Because you know what, when these, and the video I did yesterday, guys, it was a little bit raw because I just watched it. But if we've got people like this on our streets who have absolutely no respect for law and no respect for human life, where do we go with this? How do we move forwards? We need to come to an agreement on what the actual problem is, because locking up people for pointing out the problem is not solving the problem. It's not even dealing with the symptoms. All that is doing is making the symptoms worse and making them bubble up somewhere else, but even worse. Because when they do bubble up, people will be, people will put in people. When you get taught in the military how to take down a house or a block of flats, or how to go in there with soldiers, you always go in from the top, because that gives people a place to run off. If you don't give people a place to run away, for example, if you go in at the bottom, those people can't run away then, so they have to fight to the death. So it's a lot harder. And that's what that's the kind of same analogy that we're having now. We're putting this heavy lid on the pot that's boiling. People need to be able to, people in this country, the people who've paid taxes all their life, they need to be known, and it needs to be seen that those people are taking care of them. People are listening to their concerns. So let me just go on this article, guys. I'll put it in the description. PM to say things will get worse before we get better. Keir Starmer is set to warn that things will get worse in the UK before they get better. In a speech on Tuesday, the Prime Minister is likely to say there is no quick fixes to remedy what he will call the rubble and ruin left by the Conservatives. And I said this, didn't I? I said this like so many days ago. I said, he's going to say and he's going to blame everything on the previous government. But how long can he keep blaming that on the previous government for? How long? Because, I don't feel it's good enough when people are telling him what the answers are, when the rank and file people of the United Kingdom are telling Keir Starmer what the problem is and how to solve it. And he's just saying, no. It gives me, it kind of reminds me, and I've said this before, of when, when the British were fighting the Americans. The Americans, they were fighting for the country, they were fighting for their homeland, they were making their own tactics up, and the British were saying, no, form line, form square, I tell you, form square. And the Americans were, being ungentlemanly, but it worked. And they were in the sidelines, in the woodlands, using sniper tactics, picking off the soldiers. And that's why we lost we lost that war. And Keir Starmer really does remind me of that. Somebody who's so righteous in himself, he won't listen to what people are talking about. He won't listen what people... I wonder, does he actually read the comments? Does he read the comments on when he puts a post? I wonder, I'm under no illusion he probably doesn't, monitor his own social media, but it would be good if Keir Starmer read the comments, what people are writing underneath, because most of them, in fact, I'll let you guys decide for yourselves. Go on X and look at and search him up, and then look at anything he writes, look at the comments underneath it. So the warning here, guys, is from me. It's from the government as well. Like they say, things are going to get worse because they're not going to get better. Now, and again, like I said at the beginning, I've got lots of friends, different countries. We don't really see each other anymore in person. We always do things online and various online platforms. And things are just catastrophic. We've got this war in Europe that people, we kind of think it's not going to affect us. But the reality is the Russians are pushing and pushing. In fact, let me quickly, guys, just have a quick check. So I've not checked this for a while. Let me see how far these, let me see how far the Russians have pushed. So when was the last time we talked about it? I think it was the 20th. I'm going to say it was the 20th. So let me go back to the 20th, guys, and let me see. Right, let me zoom in. Hang on. Right, so that's the 20th. That's when I did the last video. Yeah. Right, guys, I'll quickly share this with you. So the last time we did a video on this region here, guys, I said that the Russians are trying to push and take that area there, Pokrovsk. Now this was how the ground looked on the 20th. If you go right back, I'll just go back. Look how much they've taken since this. So this is the 6th, or is it the 8th? I think it was the 8th from the Russian. No, it was the 6th. Yeah. So this is how far they've pushed. This area here, they want to take that Pokrovsk there because it's a strategic junction. It's got rail and it's got road. Now look how far they've pushed since the 6th. So I said, didn't I? Remember when I did the last video? I said they're going to push up to this road here. They're going to go firm on that road, and then they're going to come, and then they're going to move up this road. They're going to push into this ground, and they want to take Pokrovsk. I said, guys, it's only a matter of time before that falls, And then when that falls, we're going to look at, it's going to be the likelihood of NATO troops on the ground. And this is not, me saying it. This is people who are out on the ground in Ukraine. It's people who work for NGOs. It's people who work for, security managers for large, I can't really name them, but the larger, media outlets. And I say to them, why don't they, I say to them, why? I'm not dropping anyone in it. I say to them, guys, why don't, your media outlets actually report on what's happening? And they say, well, they do, but they're told where to go and what to report on by their editors. So their hands are tied. And then, the smaller independents, you know, nobody listens to them because they get pushed aside. But that's the reality of the situation in Eastern Europe, guys, okay? Pokrovsk is going to fall in the next week or so. When that falls, that's going to put pressure then on Macron to send French troops in, to send NATO troops in. What's going to happen? You know, Zelensky, they've got that bromance. And I always say, don't I, look at the interpersonal relationships. Nothing else matters. It doesn't. Nothing else matters. Look at the interpersonal relationships between these people. And that's how you understand what's going to happen. Guys, all you have to do is, you know, do a quick search for Zelensky and Macron, and they're doing bromance, handshakes and smiling. If he asks, he will do it. And then you're going to have the situation where, you know, Zelensky could do this publicly. Zelensky could come out there publicly and say, you know, Macron, we need your troops. We're falling. We can't do any more. And then what happens? You know, Macron's already said he's going to send troops. You know, Macron's, you know, and he doubled down on it. He was asked initially, he confirmed it. Then he was asked a couple of days later, and he doubled down on it. He said, no, definitely. You know, and he set out the three tests. So Ukraine would have to have, no, I think it was 2 tests. Ukraine would have to lose significant ground in the east. And, you know, if Pokrovsk falls into Russian hands, there's no denying that. You know, if the Ukrainians asked for it, sorry, it was 2 tests. You know, that's the reality of the situation. We're going to see one of those boxes ticked in the next couple of weeks. And then that's going to set everything else up in the air, because the countries that we're in, we've got paid saboteurs now. And I've already talked about this, and I've warned about these things for such a long time. I've been saying, guys, we're going to have a mass influx of sabotage, coordinated sabotage. I even said, didn't I? I said Europe is a bigger risk than the United Kingdom, because in Europe you're getting an influx of weapons that have been smuggled over. My speculation, I don't know if this is happening, but you know, I would speculate that a lot of weapons are being smuggled from the east of Ukraine. They're being smuggled through whatever channels smugglers use, you know, and they're being pumped into Europe. You know, in the United Kingdom, we're relatively lucky because we're on an island. But guys, you know, how many boats managed to make it to the United Kingdom without being intercepted? How many boats make it? How many boats are, you know, have behind them in a plastic waterproof bag a load of, and I'm just speculating here, guys. I have no idea if this is happening, but how many of these boats, when they're being towed along, how many of these boats have weapons and contraband in plastic bags behind the boat? And if somebody comes to intercept them, they just let them go, they sink. How many of these are actually coming? The reality is we don't know. And each one of those boats that makes it over, you can assume that these things are coming at night time as well. You can assume these things are, you know, these smugglers, these smuggling gangs that Keir Starmer says he's going to smash the gangs. He's not going to smash the gangs. He couldn't smash an egg. But, you know, that these smugglers will be wanting to make money, and that will be a lucrative market for them. So how many of this stuff is already on the ground? How many of this, you know, these munitions are already in the United Kingdom? I'm going to say less than is in Europe, but I still say sufficient amounts in the United Kingdom. And we've got all this stuff now coming to a crossroads, I think. And, you know, and it's not just the United Kingdom. This is happening all over the Western world, because we've been subverted for so many years. We've been on our high horse thinking that we're untouchable because X, Y, and Z. But the reality is, you know, things are going to go south very quick. And I really do worry that we're going to see a militarization in the United Kingdom. So we're going to have a situation where, like Northern Ireland, where you had lots of different terror groups, all working independently, all with slightly different aims, objectives, you know, all working independently. And then the government's going to be the government are then going to be like, oh, right, what do we do now? Then the government's got a war on terror. And then, you know, and the reality is right now they could solve this problem easy by doing what the people want them to do. But anyway, guys, that's it. I've rabbited on for far too long. This was just a warning, you know, if things are going to get worse. You know, I don't want to make all these doomy, gloomy videos, but I really don't see. And I think this video yesterday that I watched, you know, that I'll link it to the end of the, not the video, I'll link my reaction to the video at the end of this one. But I just saw that video and I was like, wow, you know, there are people now who have absolutely no respect for human life. And that's the main thing. People have no respect for human life. You know, people have no respect for the law. People have no respect for each other. And people just don't care anymore. We really have lost morality in this country. I'd say we've lost, most of the Western world's lost morality. You know, and we're gonna have to pay the piper. There's the old saying, you know, it's like what is it? Hard times create strong men create good times, good men create, what is it, weak times, you know what I'm saying, guys. But let me get this right, because I need to get it right, because I need to explain. Good times create weak men create bad times create strong men create good times. What I'm seeing now is a generation that have to be strong. And the generation I'm talking about now is if you're still at secondary school now, if you're a person and you're at secondary school now, you're going to have to be stronger. That you're going to have to be the strong generation, because my generation we failed. We have absolutely not me. Not me. I feel like Cassandra. I feel like one of these people who's warning people all the time about things like, you know, I've lived in the Middle East. I've lived in Eastern Europe. I've spent most of my working life in third world countries and countries that are at war. So I understand it. I understand these cultures. I understand what makes these people tick. You know, and I tell people, you know, I say, look, you know, I explain to them the problems that we're going to face. And, you know, like Cassandra. So Cassandra, I think she was a Greek fortune. I think it was a Greek or Roman fortune teller. They used to say things that were coming, but nobody would listen until it was too late. So I used to tell people all the time, and people used to say, "Oh, you know, sure, no, you're wrong. People just want to be happy." No, we can't look at other problem. We can't look at different cultures with our Western eyes. We've got to look at other cultures. You know, you've got to live in that culture. You've got to understand that culture. You've got to embed yourself in that culture. You know, I've spent 5 years in Iraq. You know, I speak Arabic. I speak Russian, Ukrainian. Some people even say I can put a sentence together in English. You know, and until you experience that firsthand, you don't really understand how a culture works, and you can't respect it either. You know, and what I will say is, if you've been on holiday to Dubai for 2 weeks, you've not immersed yourself in that culture. If you've been on safari to Africa, you've not immersed yourself in that culture. You've been there and you've seen the tourist part. If you want to go to Dubai, go to the outskirts of Dubai. Go and look how the people on the outskirts of Dubai live. You know, you've got Dubai as a whole in the center of Dubai. You've got the most cosmopolitan, the richest, the glass buildings. It looks fantastic. You go outside the city limits. You've got kids with no shoes begging for water. That's not progress. That's fake. That's not real. It's fake. And that's like a lot of these things at the moment. And honestly, guys, I don't want to go into it about, talk about like what's real and reality and do we live in a simulation, because that's just another rabbit hole that I've been down quite a lot. And how long have we got? And I've been rabbiting for far too long, because I did say I was going to cut away like 3.5 minutes ago. But anyway, guys, the jokes of this video is just a warning. Things are going to get worse. I don't think they're going to get better until we make them better. I don't feel the government can make anything better, because they don't understand the problem. They don't understand the problem because they don't come from reality. A lot of the politicians at the moment are career politicians, so they went from a heavily subverted university where they've learned heavily Marxicized, ideology. They've then had a job straight into politics. How can people who've never worked in reality, who've never had a real job, who've never had a pragmatic process to work, how can these people solve problems? How can these people, manage things on a day-to-day basis? They can't. All they can look at and all they can do is look at things with an ideological lens. and ideological lenses are not working. We can see that in the United Kingdom. We can see that in the United States. We can see that all over Europe. That's literally in flames. You know, we've only got a couple of weeks before potential NATO troops on the ground in Ukraine. Anyway, guys, like I said, I think I've tried to cut away 3 times, but I keep giving the warnings. That's it, guys. The crux of this video is, you know, warning. Things are going to get worse. You know, take heed, do things. You know, take whatever necessary measures you guys need. But this is not just a problem in the United Kingdom. Things are worse than ever, and a lot of things I can't even talk about on here because I just can't. You know, and that's the reality, guys. Just a warning, take heed, protect yourselves, and remember, things are going to get worse. That's it, guys. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news. And watch out for this Notting Hill Carnival thing. Watch what happens when it's finished. Watch all the reports that have come out and literally what I just said. Anyway, guys, I'll try and get you an uplift. Do you know what? I might do an aliens video later and talk to you guys about aliens or Matrix or alternate time dimensions. I might do alternate time dimensions. Anyway, guys, I'll speak to you guys later. I'm going to back to grid.